The officials for Sunday's massive derby at Ibrox have been announced, and trust me, you're not going to like this. Graham Potter has now been linked with the Celtic job, Austin Trustees facing a nightmare ban scenario, and Chris Boyd just issued a brutal warning about what defeat on Sunday would mean. It's been a dramatic 24 hours, but first make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Alright, the Celtic Fans Collective has just gone public with the full minutes from their meeting with the board on the 18th of February, and let's just say things got tense. Interim chairman Brian Wilson was there as the tensions between the board and sections of the support continue to bubble away. So here's the background. Back in October, there was a previous meeting. At that point, supporters were looking for better communication, more structured engagement, and greater accountability from the club. According to the collective, none of that has happened. In fact, they say the situation has actually gotten worse since then. And just to show you how bad things have gotten, the day after this meeting, we had the protest against Stuttgart at Celtic Park. Bouncy balls were thrown onto the pitch seconds after kickoff, forcing a 3-minute delay. Martin O'Neill strongly disagreed with that action, by the way. The following day, Celtic released a statement. Brian Wilson called for order and unity as the team pushes through the title race. He also said he would seek an end to what he called this debilitating and unnecessary atmosphere of conflict. So this meeting on the 18th of February was meant to be a chance to assess where things actually stand between the club hierarchy and its supporters. And remember, this is all happening while the Green Brigade remains banned and fan media are still being kept out of official media events. That's a decision that continues to frustrate people who feel independent voices are being frozen out. Representing the club at the meeting were Brian Wilson, supporter liaison officer John Paul Taylor, head of commercial operations Kevin McQuillan, and head of legal and governance George Campbell. On the other side of the table, you had Paul Quigley, Andy McGregor, Jeanette Findlay, Kev Toner, Steph McGinn, and Paul Thompson, all there on behalf of the Celtic Fans Collective. The minutes outline the discussions in full, and they really do lay bare the gap that still exists between both sides. For a support that expects to be heard, not managed, publishing those minutes keeps the spotlight firmly on the boardroom. Now for the main story, as the Celtic Fans Collective has branded the interim club chairman contradictory after last week's meeting with the board. Celtic supporters once again called for CEO Michael Nicholson's resignation during the sit-down, and they also told interim chairman Brian Wilson that his defence of Nicholson was contradictory. The minutes from the meeting between the Celtic Fans Collective and the club have been published online, and they really do show the mood in that room. Michael Nicholson was the first issue raised. The Fans Collective spokesperson Jeanette Findlay set out the view that he should not remain as CEO beyond the current season. It was direct, and it came early in the meeting. Wilson, who's now serving as interim chairman, acknowledged there had been concerns, but he insisted he considers Nicholson's performance this season acceptable. That did not land well. Findlay responded that there was an inherent contradiction in acknowledging significant failures whilst simultaneously describing the CEO's performance as acceptable. She warned that this position was difficult for supporters to reconcile and it risked undermining credibility in the room. And that exchange really does sum up where things stand right now. Supporters believe the club have fallen short both on and off the park. The board accept mistakes have been made, but they're stopping short of holding anyone visibly accountable. The backdrop to all of this tells its own story. Just days after this meeting, Wilson issued a statement after bouncy balls brought Celtic's Europa League clash with Stuttgart to a complete halt. The unrest is not simmering quietly anymore. Recruitment remains absolutely central to the anger. Supporters point to what they see as a costly failure in the transfer market, one that contributed to Celtic missing out on the Champions League and losing ground domestically to Rangers and Hearts. The January window, which was described in the minutes as showing a lack of preparedness, only deepened that frustration. Wilfred Nancy's appointment was also described as disastrous in the discussion, another decision that supporters feel reflects poor judgment from the hierarchy. But there are wider issues too. The ongoing Green Brigade lockout was raised, as were the club's recent financial results and the tone and conduct at the recent AGM. The feeling among those present was that communication had been mishandled and trust had been eroded. Wilson's response on Nicholson was to reiterate that responsibility rests with the board collectively. There was no commitment to change, and that is not going to calm the situation. Supporters are not looking for collective responsibility as a shield, they want clear accountability, and for many of them that starts with the CEO. In other news, Celtic are being credited with an interest in Plymouth Argyle pair Laurent Tolage and Arabin Pepple as the club's summer planning begins to take shape. The League One side is competing for a playoff place this season, and their in-form duo have been playing a pivotal part in that push. Talaj and Peppel have struck 29 goals between them in all competitions, and that form has definitely not gone unnoticed. Talaj was signed from Port Vale for £1.2 million last summer, and he settled in quickly. Peppel arrived from Luton Town for just over £250,000, a deal that could rise to £600,000, and he's arguably been the standout. Peppel has got 8 goals in his last 9 games alone. He hit 2 in Saturday's 5-2 demolition of Cardiff City, with Talaj also grabbing a brace in a result that really turned heads. Scouts from several English clubs have been watching closely, and according to the Daily Mail, Celtic are among them, sensing there may be value there before the market inflates. Peppel, who's 23, was born in Kettering but qualifies for Canada and is being monitored at international level as they weigh up a first senior call-up. There's also interest from Turkey, with Göztepe, while clubs in England and MLS sides Minnesota United and Montreal are said to be tracking him. For Celtic, this fits the current picture. 5 players were brought in on loan until the end of the season. Tomas Kavankara, Junior Adamu and Joel Mvuka all have options to buy, but there's no clarity yet on whether those clauses will be triggered. That leaves uncertainty in forward areas and beyond. The scale of the rebuild this summer feels significant. Recruitment decisions will shape the next cycle, and that includes the appointment of a permanent manager. The league remains the immediate focus. It has to be. But behind the scenes, groundwork will surely already be underway. If Celtic believes Tolaj and Peppel can step up and do so at a price that makes sense, then this is exactly the type of move supporters will expect the club to explore. Value, upside, hunger, those are the boxes that need to be ticked. Lastly, a former Denmark goalkeeper has defended Kasper Schmeichel after sections of the Celtic support made their feelings known in the defeat to Stuttgart. Schmeichel was booed by some fans in the 4-1 loss at Celtic Park, a night that really summed up his recent struggles. The 39-year-old has looked vulnerable this season. There have been mistakes, hesitancy, and goals conceded that you would once have backed him to keep out without any fuss. Peter Kjær, the former Aberdeen and Denmark goalkeeper, admitted he was taken aback by the reaction from the stands. He said, "I was really surprised when I heard the catcalls from Celtic fans towards Kasper Schmeichel. When your own fans are on your back, it is very unusual. It doesn't strike me as typically British. In Scotland, I never experienced it. Not just towards me, but in general, I didn't experience it. You rarely experience it." Now, Celtic Park has never been shy in letting players know when standards slip. Goalkeepers especially live a lonely existence when form dips. Schmeichel is experienced enough to understand that. He's played at the highest level, won major honours, and carried responsibility for club and country. Kjær believes that resilience will show again. "I have no doubt that Kasper is mentally strong," Kjær said, "but no matter how we twist it, it's something that affects a person." That's all the latest Celtic news for today. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and drop a comment below with your thoughts.